Good morning. So today we're going to learn about creating work orders in OneSite. First of all, what's a work order? Well, a work order is a log of something that needs to be fixed in our community. Now that means inside an apartment, inside uh, a common area, or outside, anywhere on our grounds. It's something that maintenance needs to look at or fix. So we log those work orders into a platform called OneSite. OneSite is a web-based platform, so that means you can access it through the internet, and each user has a username and password. So we're going to be learning today how to put in those work requests or work orders into OneSite. By now, you should have received your username and password along with the address or the web address where you go to log into OneSite. So let's do that now. So from this first screen, you'll see here, this is the web address where we go to log into OneSite, and you'll need to put in your sign-in name and your password. Now, those are very specific, so make sure you type them in with capital letters if that's in your password. And also, once you've done that, you can click sign on. But just a note, OneSite doesn't really like Chrome too much, so it really prefers Internet Explorer. I would suggest that you use that to get the best performance. All right, so let's say we've put in our login name and password and we've now signed on. So the first screen that should come up is going to look like this. Now yours might look a little bit different than mine, but make sure you're under the service request tab. And you may have a lot more fields than I do, a lot more columns. That's okay. That's not really important. The important thing is that you know how to utilize what is there. So the first thing to notice is up here at the very top, I have the Lanier Gardens community up. Now I'm a super user, so I've got a lot of communities on mine, but you will just have Lanier Gardens and Talmadge Terrace. If you click this down arrow, a list will come up, and if you have something for Talmadge Terrace, you just click on Talmadge Terrace, and it will go to the Talmadge Terrace OneSite portal. So for today, let's just say that we're going to put in something for Lanier Gardens. We need to be under the service request tab, and we're going to click on new. When we do that, there's some information that is going to come up. The first thing you want to notice is that it's asking for a request type. Now, automatically it defaults to single unit because that's what we have the most of. A single unit is just an apartment. But we sometimes have requests for common areas like the main dining room. So if that is the case, then click this down arrow and you will select common area. Now, we very rarely, if ever, use multiple units or all units. So the main two that you'll use are single unit and common area. And I will say single unit will be used more than anything. So let's pick an apartment number. The unit here is just the apartment number. So let's just say 104. We're going to click find. And we see here 104 is Loretta Phillips. Things are going to populate now. So it's going to automatically populate our current date and time. And then it's also going to populate the resident's name and phone number. Don't worry about any of that. Just make sure that you've entered the correct apartment number for this resident. Okay. You're going to scroll on down until you see some red boxes. The first box that you want to fill in is the service category. So you're going to click that. And now under service category, we have some high-level categories that have a lot of things underneath them. So let's go through them. Appliance is going to be like a stove or a refrigerator. Building exterior doesn't really apply to resident apartments. Communications is going to be telephone or cable or doorbell. Doors and locks, of course, is going to be the front door, any of the doors in the apartment and their locks. Electrical and lighting, of course, is anything with the lights, whether it be a light bulb out or something like that. Electrical is going to be your receptacles. Flooring is the flooring. We're going to skip general, and then we've got grounds and landscaping, which doesn't really apply. Heating and cooling is going to be for your air conditioning in the resident apartments or heat. Inspection and make ready doesn't really apply. Plumbing and bath, of course, is anything in the bathroom, whether it be the shower, the toilet, any of that. Pool and recreation, we don't have. Preventative maintenance doesn't apply. Safety equipment is going to be grab bars. So we do have sometimes requests to put in grab bars. So that's under safety equipment. So for now, let's just choose electrical and lighting. Under that, you see that we have a drop down for location of problem. Now, this is kind of important because if a resident's not in the apartment, then maintenance needs to know what room the problem is in. So in this case, let's just say it's in the kitchen. And then underneath that, the item is what's the problem with. So let's say it's with the interior light. That would be the light over the sink. That would be an interior light. And then the service issue. So what's the issue? Well, the light's out. So we're going to click on light bulb is out. So as you can see, okay, we've got a warning here that the complete request date is more than 30 days past. Just say use date. Okay, here's one of the things is that every work order is given a timeline, and that timeline is called priority, okay? This is a way that maintenance can tell which issues are more important than others. Now, I'm sure, as you may realize, that some things can wait a bit while others are more important. So, for example, an air conditioning unit that's not running in the middle of summer is going to be more important than a light bulb being out. Now, of course, they're both important, but in the heat of summer, it's an emergency that the air conditioning be fixed. So a priority is automatically assigned based on the category and the item that are selected. You'll see that here. So that doesn't really need to be changed. That will automatically come up, so you don't need to worry about that. Assigning to a work group and the name, don't worry about any of that. Maintenance takes care of that. But one thing you do want to make sure of is if you do have a service issue that's weird, like let's say instead of light bulb out is out, it's the light flickers. If you have something that you need to say about that, say the light starts flickering after being on for 10 minutes, or the light flickers when I turn on the stove. Those things are important to make notes of so that maintenance is able to address the problem correctly. If they were to go into that apartment without knowing that, they'd flick the light on, and if it came right on, they wouldn't think there was a problem. So they'd close out the work order, and the resident would still have the issue. So it's really important to make sure that you list everything that you know about that if it's an odd situation. All right, then you're just going to click Save. And your work order has been entered. You'll see that on whatever your service request page looks like, it's got the apartment, the date it was created, which was today, the resident, where the problem is, which is in the kitchen. It's electrical and lighting, and the light flickers. So you did that. That's basically all you do for a work order. Now, one thing I will tell you is that some work orders are difficult to figure out where things are. So I'm going to go back into this work order, and let's look at that a little bit. Some of the service categories, let's go to general. General's items are going to be things that are kind of odd. So let's say that you have an issue with mildew in a resident apartment. There's not really a place to put that. You know, when you look at heating and cooling, and that's really more things like the PTAC, which is what we call the air conditioning and heating unit, or a fan or something like that. But really, general covers some of those things that are not common under a specific category. So let's look at that. We see items. If we have somebody that has mildew on their ceiling, then where's the problem? Let's say it's in the kitchen, and we would choose ceiling tile. Even though we don't have ceiling tiles, that's how it's listed in the program. So that's what we would do. Or if it was on the cabinets, anything like that would be under general. Pest control is also under general. So if we had a problem with the ceiling tile, we would say the ceiling tile is stained, damaged. And in this case, we would probably need to say it's another problem. Now, we don't really want to do that ever because it doesn't break down the problem into what the issue truly is. But when that's the case, you may get a warning that says, what do you want to do? Complete it by the current date or something else. Just click OK. Don't worry about the dates and the times. But when that happens and you have to put in that it's an other problem, you need to write some service comments down there to let the maintenance guys know what they're getting into and what they're dealing with. All right, so that's pretty much how we create a service request. I'm going to cancel this request really quick, just so maintenance doesn't think that they really have a flickering problem. You will not be able to do that, by the way. That's an access thing. You will just be able to put in the requests. So now that we have that request in, what if there's a question about if we have a work order in the system already? So let's look and see how we do that. From this same page, you can find out what work orders are in and need to be completed for a resident. So if you go to unit number, that's the way I suggest you pull it up, is by the apartment number. And we pull up, let's say for apartment 104. And then you need to decide if it's a work order that it needs to be completed, or if it's one that's already been completed. You can choose open requests or completed in the 7 days or completed this month. So I'm going to click completed this month. And it's going to show you for apartment 104. I'm going to click go, and it's going to show you the ones that I just put in. And then it's also going to show you everything else there that has come up. And actually, it's going to come up for as long as that resident has lived there. So this can be a handy tool. If a resident asks for, what are my open requests? Do you have a work order for my light flickering? And it was apartment 204. Then you would put in apartment 204 and go. And it would show you the open request for that apartment. Actually, it's got lots of requests. So if this does happen, you can always click status and click it again. You'll see that she only has one that hasn't been completed. It's on hold, and it's interior door damaged or broken. So that particular one is on hold and has been open for 119 days. Now that's a long time, but there's obviously a story there as to why that is open like it is. If we were to choose another apartment, let's say apartment 120, we would see that this resident, let's see, you can click on any of these to sort. The last request that this resident had was in 2019. And it was that the trees needed pruning outside of her apartment. So all of those things are things that can be put in using OneSite. All right, did you learn anything? I hope that this has just been a quick and easy tutorial on how to put those work orders into the system. It is a little bit of a learning curve. You know, when you're talking about categories and what's in what category, really you kind of have to think through it. You know, issues that are with electrical and plumbing are going to be lighting, electrical receptacles, things like that. Things in plumbing are going to be things like your sink or your toilet or your shower. Those things are in plumbing. So you kind of have to think through what the problem is before you can actually put it in OneSite, because you need to know how to put it in. So it's a little bit of a learning curve there. But once you start doing it, you'll begin to learn, and it will become a really simple and easy process. It just takes a little time, but you'll get there. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I'm always able to help. Have a great day.